Welcome, everybody, to My Hero Analysis Beyond MHA Rewatch episode Trace.
Yes.
We are your hosts, Tom Uwatu DeGrazia, and we have Steph, who has no hero name this week, but
Nope.
I can still call her Slagmite Thrilla Bear. How you doing tonight, Steph?
I'm doing all right. How are you?
Not too bad. Not too bad. It's been it's a little warm down here in San Diego. I don't know if up by you. And I'm feeling the heat, especially because I have like 5 different lights on, so it's not like too dark. Oh, Eva's here. Hey, Eva. Hey, Christy. welcome. So yeah, we're like normal. We're gonna just get this show going because we have some big episodes to talk about.
Yeah. Some amazing things happened this week.
And I currently have the screenshots way too big, so start with one. And yeah, let's get right into it. So, Steph, I'm going to take it away.
So this episode was aptly named Deku versus Kacchan because they are fighting it out as we ended in the last one. He just got thrown down, and Deku basically made his explanation that he's going to be the hero of heroes and he's going to beat him and do all the great things. And now we get kind of Bakugo's reaction to that in this episode.
Mm-hmm.
So this is kind of where we left off, and we're getting ready for a really, really tough battle for Deku involved.
Yeah, very tough. It's well, I think a lot of leading up to this too, we see a lot of Deku basically putting himself down a couple tiers below Kacchan in his mind. I mean, Kacchan's had this amazing power all of his life, and Deku's always kind of looked up to him, and now he's finally being able to stand on the same stage, even though he can't use his power to fight. So he's going to try to use his knowledge against him and go up against one of his heroes, his personal heroes.
Yeah. It's basically his childhood hero alongside All Might. He watched All Might on TV, and he had Kacchan right there in front of him. So
which
just kind of goes, yeah.
Yeah, I think for a lot of us, I think we have our heroes that we look to, right, in like popular media or whatnot, whatever it is, and they're the big heroes. But I feel like also for a lot of us, the heroes that are closer to us in our life are even more bigger impact, more important, because we get to watch them every day, in their daily struggles, their ups and downs and everything like that, more on a personal level, and that's what Bakugo is to Midoriya. So it's kind of great. Yeah. Bakugo in a Punisher tee, Dan says. Totally.
Yeah, which is ironic, but it's okay. This is kind of going over their childhood and kind of how they both figured out either they're quirkless or they have a quirk, and kind of what's going on and how they manifested. Same kindergarten, same neighborhood, same school. So it's kind of funny that they have the same teachers and the same kind of basic upbringing, and the only real big difference is that quirk.
That quirk changes a lot, because we do in this same episode, we'll go into more of the praise that Bakugo gets as a young kid and what that does to him. And this is Deku saying this, how his quirk basically accelerated him down the wrong path, because everybody filled him with this amazing kind of sense of you're amazing, you have the best quirk, no one's quirk is as good as yours kind of thing, and it kind of can fill your head in a bad way.
Yeah. Especially when you're 5.
Yes. Oh, yeah. Young and impressionable, right?
Yeah. Especially everybody's telling you you're amazing, you're amazing. And I love this line because there has to be a translator. They need to have the line for Bakugo and then have an actual translation, because the emotion that he expresses in this episode, just the way that he's feeling and letting everything out, I don't think he could have done that with anybody else. Deku is really his sounding board. It's everything that frustrates him or makes him feel amazing at the same time. So,
I think it's that point too where he's hit a wall, right? He's frustrated because he's thought of himself in this tier, and all of a sudden he's thought of this other person that's how many levels below. And yet now here they are side by side fighting, and he's you shouldn't be here. And also you've been hiding something from me all of this time. There's this whole thing, there's this whole side of you that, I've hated you this whole time for other reasons, but you're just adding on more to it. So it's very, I don't know, he's letting it, I think he's hit a wall to the point where he just has to let it all out.
Exactly. And I think, unlike Deku now has All Might to kind of talk to and kind of work things out through and have mentors, he doesn't really have any real friends. Kacchan never did. I mean, he has Deku to scream at, but doesn't really have anything else. So this is like his form of venting. So,
and it's also like I feel like he has those kids that follow him around all through like middle school and whatnot. But like you're saying, they're not like friends. They're more like his minions in his own mind, right? They're kind of like they're the extras of his story, to use his own kind of like lines and logic. And I kind of loved this how because in last episode we get the fact that Bakugo ran off on his own, and we haven't seen what Tenya was really doing, and then we get this whole thing where Bakugo, like, because they're talking to each other, you know, they have these communicators. We'll kind of go into that a little bit in a minute, but Bakugo yells back at Tenya, just shut up and defend. Just let me do what I'm doing.
Yeah, let me take on who I want to take on, because he has freedom to do what he always wanted, which is go all out and just be pissed off at Deku. And so he wants Tenya to hold down the fort. Which I like the pairings in this too, though, because it really shows the difference between each character as well. Right,
because Tenya is very structural, rigid, by the book, and I don't think you would get maybe Mineta, but besides who's like the least by the book structural person, it has to be the explosive personality, the driven by pure emotions, Bakugo.
Yeah. So and this is a little bit more about what they're doing. And so this is the part where they're going on about how they each have wireless radios to each other. So they're not talking all four of them. They're talking to their teammates. So, and then kind of going over how they win, which is either touching the paper mache bomb and then or capturing another person with the tape.
Or if the villains can keep them from touching or getting captured, it's just outlast the 15 minutes.
Yeah, 15 minutes isn't very long either for how this episode went.
It's not. Well, I mean, we're getting this episode over 2 30-minute episodes, really. So it is like, sometimes in anime, timing is really funny. Like the very end of Dragon Ball Super, there's a match that is 45 minutes, but it lasts over, I think, 45 episodes. So like it's a minute per episode. And then you have stuff like this where it's like 15 minutes over 2. So time is funny.
Yeah.
And of course, our heroes don't know.
Yeah, they don't know where they are, let alone where the actual bomb is in there. And so they go over how, the heroes are at a complete disadvantage then, and the villains will clearly maybe win. And then All Might clarifies that heroes should be able to turn the tables. They should be able to do what they need to do no matter what the situation is.
So I think it's one of those things where if you're a hero, you're most of the time probably going in not having all of the information. Like you're going in, the villains are there, and you just got to be able to do what you can to kind of quell the situation. So to not know what that is, to have this time limit, to have all this kind of stuff working against your favor, that makes it more realistic.
Dan's asking if Sero felt about the tape.
I see that. It's like, I wonder if he asked if he could use his own.
Yeah, probably is. Cheating.
His weird elbow tape.
Yeah.
It's a weird place. We'll get into that a little bit because we'll actually have some Sero time.
Yeah. So this is kind of like, he learned this from watching his battle with Aizawa. Not really battle, but Aizawa taking Bakugo down that one time at the field when he binded him with the tape. And so he's thinking about, hey, I can do that the same way because I know Bakugo, what he's doing. He's kicking. And so you get this awesome image of like Midoriya thinking, I'll just capture him. Yeah. And
it's great. I think it shows a lot of the analytical side of Midoriya too. It's like, I'm not using my power purposefully because using his power put him out. Though Bakugo doesn't know that. Bakugo just thinks that he could use his power, or not use his power, and take him down. He's underestimating him, as Bakugo says multiple times in this episode. But it's not that at all. It's instead, Deku's just trying to do what he possibly can without using it. And we actually see, granted he's not using the power, but he's putting up a decent fight. Like there are moments where I'm thinking, the first time I saw this, I'm like, oh wow, he might be able to do this with, fight up against a superhero as a normal person.
Which would be really cool.
Yeah, but he doesn't. It doesn't work out that well.
No, but it was definitely going in his favor for a little while.
And I think a lot of it has to do with something like this. Like he knows the person he's fighting really well. He's known Kacchan all his entire life, and he knows like Kacchan will get impatient, and because he gets impatient, he will kind of like cut back and do other moves because he's just trying to rush something or, cut to the chase.
I think it also, like, later on in the series will point out that there's other moments where Deku knowing him as well as he does actually helps along the story and with other in moments. So
yeah. This is analyzing. Actually, I think this is when he kind of like dips back right into thinking about Aizawa and like how the capture tape and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and trying to think of something that's going to help him with trying to take care of Bakugo.
I do love though that he has his like. I am so far away from this mindset of Midoriya where I would not know what number volume and what page of what number volume like something happened in a comic that I love even. So for him to remember that, again, shows his analysis.
Yeah. And then this is, I believe, when All Might's thinking about how he's always so great at reacting in a crisis, and how he's like, oh my God, acknowledging Midoriya as being so thinking quickly and trying to do all these things. And then,
yeah. He's just getting a chance to say that fanboy knowledge is paying off. Plus, we get another flashback to the scene where he's offering up the power, which again we will see again and again and again.
Yeah. And then Bakugo ramps it up a little bit more, and he is just getting frustrated, and he just assumes that Midoriya is playing with him this entire time, so it's not helpful for his little crazed brain at this point.
He's seeing red at this point.
Oh, it's beyond. It's just like there's barely, and I think All Might eventually mentions that he's like, okay, is there any sanity left in there going, like when he talk to him?
Yeah, they do acknowledge that he is crazed, but he's still thinking at least, because there are some moments where he could have killed Deku.
Yeah. Oh, and this is Midoriya thinking about how the best way to win the battle would be, and how them both going into a room with Bakugo and Ida was not going to be a good idea, but breaking them apart and him knowing that Bakugo was going to come after him anyways, their best chance to win was sending Uraka to fight Ida to get the bomb, and then him just trying to stall and try to beat Bakugo, but let Uraka do her thing.
Yeah.
There you go.
That's exactly what we kind of get. And again, it goes back to that whole video game references that Horikoshi liked to throw in the start of the series. And I love that he's this is right after we get a flashback to that scene back in middle school where he's like, I'm not trying to challenge you, I'm not even trying to be on the same playing field as you. And he's like, I take back everything I said, because now he's actually gonna take this chance.
Yeah. And then he's just gonna keep repeating that he's just a pebble. He's supposed to be just somebody there, randomly extra on the side of the road, that he's never going to have to worry about. He's supposed to go to UA by himself, be his neighborhood's number one as he goes along, and he can't handle it that it's not happening.
Yep.
Oh,
yeah. I know. This second set of flashbacks was so sad in a lot of ways, because we got to kind of see the deep-rooted way that Bakugo basically tormented poor Deku. We'll get to see it in I think the next slide, even after he says you really can't do anything, and then kind of
you can read the same characters. I wish I could speak Japanese better to see if it actually lays out the same way, because that's really well done. But kids can be so mean. They don't.
Again.
Yeah.
I love the spiral he goes through these next episodes and realizing he's not the only one with talent. Dan, that's exactly it. That's kind of what I think begins the turnaround of Bakugo. It's like this setup is, we get to see him at his worst, I think, in this episode, right? It's like really, they're even playing the villain music when we're getting Bakugo's scenes. And I think that's the last time we get the villain music pairing with Bakugo, because after this, we get to see a big change in his character.
Yeah, which is why I really like the show too, is because it doesn't keep people in the same niches forever. Like they change, they move around, they become part of the story in different ways. It's just really cool.
Christy's like, Bakugo is an adorable little kid, even though a bit evil.
Yeah.
Yeah. And of course, I think this has to do with what we saw in the very beginning of the episode, where his quirk sent him down the wrong path, and it has a lot to do with the fact that he got a lot of praise when he was about 5 years old from his teachers, parents, everyone around. It reinforced how amazing he was.
I kind of wonder if his parents were actually as supportive, because as we will learn later on, I think that might have been at home. It might have been the opposite of what Midoriya was going through.
It might be. Although his mom wasn't as supportive after the whole quirkless thing in the hero pursuit. She was supportive in other ways for sure. But in the hero pursuit, we got her just mostly apologizing. But the "no one is amazing as I am" is one of those lines that's just like, ooh, damn, son, you take that back a couple notches.
Yeah. And then he rolled with it. And then, yeah. I think he's adorable in this. That's the best faceplate I've seen in a long time. Like, I would want one for mine.
I like that you call it a faceplate too. It's his face, but you're like, it's the best faceplate. You're just thinking Nendoroids the whole time. But I also love the way how his shirt kind of looks like a mini dress on him. Well, every other kid, it looks like completely normal.
Yeah, he's just tiny.
Yep.
And then, now that he knows he's quirkless, then he is the least amazing, because he definitely does not have anything that will compare.
Yeah, that's rough. That's a rough thing to hear from your friend. Mm-hmm. Although he doesn't say it out loud, this is him thinking about it, I think.
Yeah. And then I think this comes later on, because they're older in these ones, where he falls off and then Deku goes down there to help him. And that's when Bakugo realizes, like, you still think that you're, like, should be able to talk to me and, like, help me? Like, you think that I need your help?
Well, he's legit concerned for his friend who falls off this log, right? Walking across this bridge. And I think he's rushing down there when this happens, but the other two kids, because they're with the same group that they are throughout all these flashbacks, the other two kids are like, oh, are you all right? And Bakugo, like, quickly gets up. He's like, yeah, I'm fine. And I land in this water pool, whatever. But the next thing he knows, he like sits up and he looks around, and we get this where Deku's there to try to help him. But Bakugo is like, I can kind of also see it from Bakugo's perspective a little bit here, where it's like, I'm fine. Like, you don't need to, like, be at, like, my side to try to help me out, even if I just trip and fall. Like, I can pick myself back up, kind of thing. But instead, he turned into this whole, like, just don't look at me with this face. And then it transitions into present day, where he's just like, again, I think we get the flash to the sludge monster incident, where we see, Midoriya's, like, crazed smile, like, you look like you were asking for help. And it's really what's driving Bakugo crazy.
Yeah. And then you have the whole other thing happening with Ida and Aruka doing their thing, and this is one of the greatest images ever, is when he realizes that he's a villain in this whole scenario. So I'm going to be extremely evil. And then you get Aruka's reaction, which
hanging on it the wrong way.
He's taking it so seriously. She starts laughing, and that's when Ida acknowledges that she's in the room. So she screwed up.
And he not only acknowledges that she was in the room, he actually planned for her to be in that room. Like, he had the foresight. We'll learn later on towards the end of this episode, I think start of the next episode, that he ends up being the MVP of this whole affair because of moments like this, where he actually planned ahead and he was smart. He didn't cause wanton destruction. But it's moments like this that show that Ida comes from a hero family. He has, like, this kind of thing in his genetics. He's thinking about this kind of stuff. Ida being extra as always, Dan says. Yep, totally. From the evil maniacal thing to his little sparkle dance thing that he does here.
And it's like not even just like clear the rubble, it's clean.
It's like spotless. Because, like, if you go back to earlier scene, we saw how many barrels and boxes and things like that are thrown around that room. And he I guess if you can move super fast, why not?
It works.
Yeah.
And then this gets to go into the greatest part, which is this world has a secondary kind of layer to things. You don't just have, like, water powers, or you can breathe fire or do other stuff. They actually go to the science behind it, which goes to the X-Men kind of roots that you were mentioning earlier on, where Bakugo isn't just making explosions happen out of thin air. They talk about it later in these, that his gauntlets actually absorb the secretions from his hands, which he causes the explosions, And I really liked that he thought about it too for when he made his costume, that they store it. And so this is him basically telling you, like, it's like cocking a shotgun at somebody.
It really is. And it's cool too, because like I think I either forgot or they don't use it much after this beginning episodes, that when they're completely full, they're at like max capacity, they glow like that glowing red. And it's really cool, because after he has the one that the right hand is loaded, that we're about to see him shoot off.
Yeah.
As he's walking towards Midoriya, like immediately after, we see the left hand then start to glow, and he's like, well, you know. But man, evil. This is your boy, Steph. This is your boy. How dare you?
Oh, I know, and I'm okay with it right now.
Okay, all right. But I love Deku standing up to him.
Mm-hmm. It's one of the greatest things about this, and it only pisses Kacchan off even more, but it's good for both of their characters as just single story arcs going on. You have Bakugo identifying with he's pissed, and you have Midoriya actually growing and being more conscious of himself and what's going on. So,
and it's one of those things that we will flash to during this episode to All Might in the booth. Basically saying exactly that. He's like, not that Bakugo needs this, because no one should let their wanton need for destruction and whatnot kind of go to head. But he's saying how Midoriya also needed this. Like, clearly, he has said that his desire to become a hero is his number one driving factor. But later on in this episode, he says that just to surpass Bakugo, the way how he says it, clearly that is just as strong of a driving passion for him as it is to become a great hero. So this personal little battle between these two is one of those things that just has to happen. And All Might recognizes it. And All Might, though he should have stopped the match, he says a couple times, he let it go because it's going to better both of them, or let them kind of get this frustration out.
Yeah. And clearly later on too, this talks about how he secretes nitroglycerin like sweat. It is from just the palm of his hands. You were correct. I don't know really about it. From his sweat glands on the palm of his hands, and those two chemicals together create the explosions. So it's not like he's even creating fire. He's literally just a sweaty quirk. That's not.
Well, so it's the nitroglycerin, because as we'll see in something we're not going to cover in this main series of our thing, when in the very first movie, he uses his nitroglycerin sweat against a villain, but he uses just the sweat, and he has another person with him that then ignites it, and it's fantastic. So
and they talk about how they store it. This frame is like my favorite thing ever too. Sorry in advance to everybody else, but he is so intently knowing that he can't hurt anybody, he can't kill him, but he's gonna damn well come close. And so he's like, if I don't hit him, he won't die. So just singe him all over the place. And I don't remember if All Might was talking to him at this point in time, and he was just like, nope, I'm gonna say this out loud.
I do feel like he is talking to him at this point. I feel like, if I'm remembering correctly, I think that he's telling him, like, if you hit him with that, like, he's going to stop the match, like, he's going to do it. And so he says, if I don't hit him, he won't die. And I think that says to All Might, he's clearly thinking about this a little bit. Granted, the amount of destruction that is about to cause, not good.
He's just trying to get him to use his quirk, because he just found out he had a quirk, like, probably the day before. So with the baseball, and like now he's just like, I need to know what he's going to do with this. I need to know everything about this, because you lied to me. I can just hear it in his little mind. And so it was just
pushing him.
This is big goosebumps moments for me, because like this was like the best thing, because Bakugo full blown crazy, just
villain. We can call him the villain. He's the villain of this beginning.
He has his villain moment. Yeah.
Well, villain. How old is he here? 14. Villainous 14. Well, 10 years really, because he started getting his powers at 5. So 9 years. But yeah, I just love how crazed they make him look in a lot of these scenes. A lot of the scenes of Bakugo in this episode are early glimpses into things we'll see other villains look like, and things, traits that we'll get from like professional villains. The main villains in the series like later on, but it's kind of like a little early glimpse into that.
Oh, let me go back to the fun times.
She lands on her head after this. I don't know if she's thinking this is fun time, Steph.
Well, it's funner than being blown up. How about that?
Yeah. Okay. Good point.
Corey is probably scared out of his mind right now. This is the part where she like tries to do her one jump, like she's gonna like float over and catch, and I think Ida stops her. I don't remember how he does it.
He grabs the bomb and he runs across the room.
Oh, that's right, with the engine. Yes.
Yeah, he sees her jumping. You see his engine extend from his calves, and he launches himself across the room, grabs the bomb, runs to the other side, and then we just see her basically hit the wall and tumble over, and she's like left upside down.
Yeah,
like that.
There. And then he was just smart as always. He's like, your quirk's not a threat if you cannot touch anything.
Which I think is great for Ochako to hear during this moment, too, because this also slowly, with a couple of other moments in season 1, will teach her the areas that she needs to work on to become a full-fledged hero that's well-rounded. I feel like one of the great things about what we'll learn about all of the kids this first season, the second season, is that they're not all at 100% like ready to be the hero. They're getting there, but there's things that they need to work on. And this is the beginning stages. So this is where you're kind of calling out the things you need to work on. And the fact that if the villain knows that a hero that can just touch stuff to make it float is coming, just remove the stuff that she can touch and you're fine.
Yeah.
So
this is Midoriya being thinking that's really cool that he even had his suit made out so his quirk would work better in long distances, because he's obviously a very up close fighter, and so he's still thinking about how cool he is, which I thought was really cute.
I do need to know. We have Eva dropping best boy in the chat, so I need to know if she's talking about Bakugo or Deku or Ida or who's the best boy, because I'm very intrigued.
I think they've been talking about Bakugo this whole time because they all secretly love him, so that's okay.
Okay. All right. Yeah, so we have like All Might basically chastising Bakugo for shooting off that giant blast, but meanwhile, we kind of get a little glimpse at, Midoriya's scheming in the background. He's talking on his comms to Ochako, so a little something's going on. And this is one of those moments Steph and I talked a little bit before the show that I was like, this is probably one of those things where All Might kind of just gave a little edge to Deku, by pausing Bakugo from continuing his onslaught, which probably would have ended the match or something like that, and not allowed Midoriya to plan and come up with this plan that we're about to see unfold. But, I think that's also the role of the teacher, though, too. It is to remind him, hey, your job as a villain is also to get your villainous plan in motion, not just a personal vendetta that you're bringing into this test.
And I think later on that they go through all this stuff too. All Might gets kind of chastised later by another character for showing his love of Deku.
He does.
This is when he's realizing that Bakugo stopped. And he's like, okay, so he is still sane. He's able to talk to me and understand that he's not exactly following the rules and doing what he needs to do.
Yep.
She said, ew, not Ida.
I know, like, never Ida. I know, I noticed that. I was laughing. And then Chrissy says he's like the dad. Right. No, 100% right. And we will see that in these 3 episodes, too. More dad-like Ida.
Oh, this is the part where you're like, he's slowly, like, the art style just gets crazy with his expressions, and he gets very villainous. Like, yeah.
This is one of my favorites because this looks like one of my personal favorite villains from My Hero, who I'm not going to discuss. But like when I saw this happening again, I'm like, oh my God, that is like a direct redraw when they re-show this other character later on, just like this. It's amazing. The eye shape, everything. And again, we have that hero music, or not the hero, we have the villain music pumping during this scene. It is just amazing. Pure villain.
And this is when Midoriya realizes that he doesn't have time to think. He can't move. He can't do his normal like analysis thing. and this is what it means to be a hero, and why the quirks are so important, and why All Might kind of mentioned that a quirk is needed for this, because you have somebody just coming at you.
Yep.
You can't sit there and analyze, how am I going to move around the room and do this? So,
especially as who calls Bakugo an instinctual? He just has like instinct, like a performance like instinct, or I forget what they say, but basically he moves on instinct in like this great way that it's just almost second nature to him to just use his quirk to his purest forms. Like he does some stuff here that we will then see resonated upon like later on in this series. Like other heroes notice the moves that how Bakugo like can kind of change direction in the air and stuff like that.
Yeah, I think it was Hiroki actually, which was surprising because he never compliments really anybody. So yeah, this part.
The change of the course and the blast. This is, I think Momo's talking about this right now, but it's impressive, like great thing. And it would totally, like, if you were to think about this, if you did have a power to cause an explosion that could propel you, as we've seen him being propelled from his explosions numerous times, to use that propulsion to also stop you from going forward and then blast at the same time, it's like crazy coordination. I didn't know that's why you included the scene, but I will have all you guys watching this know I am not the one doing the screenshots of Mineta, okay?
You need some lightheartedness. Don't point at me. I think I always call him Calamari. That's not his name. Electric guy.
Kaminari.
Is the one saying this right now too, because a lot of them are like the way later Bakugo feels about some of the other characters, they're feeling about him too.
Yeah.
Like, holy crap, that quirk is amazing. And you're right. I think Momo was analyzing everything at this point in time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I like the fact that they acknowledge that throughout this battle too, they're noticing that, you know, Deku's doing this amazing stuff like by dodging things, almost catching him, reading his moves, and he's doing it without using his abilities whatsoever. So like they're seeing how amazing, you know, just pure level Midoriya is without, you know, One for All, which none of them know he has, but you know, he doesn't, you know, that's the potential that they're seeing, the potential that All Might saw in Midoriya. I think.
And I like it too because they all thought he was nothing in the beginning, so they're slowly being able to get to know each other, basically.
Yep.
This is the part you're talking about. Bakugo's definitely a ball of natural instincts. And the eyeball
with that crazy look. That crazy look. Now, okay, we want to talk about faceplates. That should be a faceplate.
It needs to be a shirt I can just wear all the time.
There you go. You should just get that tattoo.
Yeah. Oh, he's still going off. I think he used the word bastard like 4 or 5 times in this episode. I felt bad.
He called him nerd at least 20 times in this episode too, I think.
Damn
nerd.
And he says he calls him amazing just as many times as he calls him bad words.
Well, I do think at this point too, like Deku hasn't been able to say this, but he's frustrated to the point where Bakugo keeps thinking that he's being tricked by Deku, right? And Deku's not. Deku's just like, his limbs might blow off of his body. He's trying to not use his power that's just going to destroy him. But he also can't say that out in the open, right? Because that's part of the whole, the promise he made to All Might is not to divulge this secret. So he can't say anything, but he also has this mad respect for this guy, and that's why he wants to beat him without using this power that might, you know, kill him or whatever. And
And also, Bakugo doesn't know his limbs are going to fall off because he didn't see him during the tests. All he's seen is the one finger thing, and that just, it doesn't really.
I don't even think he saw that. I think, like, because the way how he got to keep the one finger just swollen, I think Bakugo was more concentrated on the fact that he had a quirk than to know that there was any after effects to it whatsoever. So I think what we'll see in a moment when he notices what happened. Oh my God. And this is that powerful moment. This is actually the line that All Might responds to, saying, like, I think this is the most convicted I've heard you sound since saying that I want to be a great hero.
And you know, it's funny, too, because Baka is idiot in Japanese. So Bakugo is where I thought that he just named him that because it was good.
We got the damn nerd. And then we have this great flashing scene of them rushing at each other, which is, you know, this Matt, oh no, wait, this one and this one, and we get this back and forth numerous times until the big clash.
Yeah. Bakugo thinks he's going to use it on him. He's ready for it. He's just going to go all out.
I think we get a quick glimpse. I'm not sure if we have a screenshot of it right after this, of Bakugo being absolutely shocked that the fist wasn't coming at him at all. Like, he can see it after he lets go of his explosion, but it's going straight up into the air.
And this is full gauntlet explosion, too. This is like fully loaded. Bakugo's ready to go.
Yep. But that's the power of One for All right there. Blowing the roof off the building.
Mm-hmm.
Meanwhile.
Yes. Uruka's taking advantage of it because Midoriya had planned that he would cause some kind of chaos. So she had something. She probably told him, I don't have anything to move around up here. Ida, clean the room. And he's like, okay, this is going to be the easiest way I could get that done. Yep.
Give her a whole bunch of stuff to grab onto by just blowing up the room entirely.
Yeah.
I love that face so much. So happy it's done.
One is great too for his reaction.
Yeah. Perfect.
Oh man.
Yeah.
And this is slowly when I think this is when he realizes that he didn't hit him. And then I think the next part is then all of a sudden he slowly realizes and then Deku explains it's because I might hurt myself while I'm doing this.
Yeah.
And then Bakugo realizes that he hurt him too, and slowly realized that he wasn't thinking, and also that Deku blocked him. So it was like he knew his right hand was coming, totally predicted it, and so he beat him and won the school thing at the same time.
I'm gonna say if there is an image of this episode, it is this right here, because this moment in Bakugo's mind too, I think resonates with him for the rest of season one. I don't know. I think this is that moment where he's realizing his idea that he is the top, he is the cream of the crop, because he got into the school with top marks. He was number one, right? So he going into the school, he already thinks he's exactly where he's always thought himself to be. But in the second, third day, he's learning that's not quite the case. And it's this kid that was a pebble on the road that's kind of teaching him that. It's going to be hammered home in a second. Yeah. And here we see the damage that Bakugo has wrought upon his childhood, air quotes, friend. So before we get into episode 8, Steph, favorite moments or moment?
I can't really pick one for this episode. I think realistically, I like Ida cleaning the room. I think that is really good. I really like the little extra fights that they have with them too, with Uruka and him. But the whole episode was amazing. It's it should be one big fluid fight. And you can always go with Bakugo realizing it in the end. But I think that just the whole episode, the next episode is my favorite episode of the entire series. I've realized that watching it.
Entire series?
I didn't realize it until I rewatched it again. Yeah, and I'll go into more of that. But this one was lighthearted mixed in with all this crazy childhood pivotal moment for them. But I think Ida cleaning the room was cute enough.
There's so many good moments, like Ida realizing that he's going to play the role of villain and really acting it up. I think, a lot of the flashbacks, we kind of get to see how a lot of the response to Bakugo's quirks kind of enforcing that thought upon himself. But for me, it really is that moment where not when Deku and Ochaku win because, the plan comes into action, but it really is that reaction of Bakugo realizing, because I got to see the heart that Bakugo actually has. I think this is the first time in the series, it took, the first 7 episodes to get there, that we realized that he might care for his friend, for this kid that he grew up alongside of all this time. Yeah. Maybe it could be a lot of other realizing factors, but, he wants to be a hero. He just almost blew off the arm of this kid. So it was it's a big realization moment, and it is a pivotal moment for him to just become something different, which I think is the title of the next episode. So Dan says Ida's evil laugh specifically is the highlight of the episode for him, and I gotta say that's a great one. Yeah. His it's good. How about you guys in the comments there? Let us know what your favorite moment of the episode is. I would love to know because it was a stacked one. I forgot how like the timeline. We go from past to present. But let's dive right into the next episode because we got a lot to cover. So go right here and there. So
it kind of puts an ending on the end there where you have Bakugo realizing, and so this next episode is aptly titled for Bakugo's starting line or start line.
Yeah.
And this is when All Might announces that the heroes won, and everyone's like, what the heck? Because Haruka's throwing up and Deku's out for the count. Done. And the other two, I mean, Bakugo's stunned into silence. He doesn't even know what to do with himself. And Ida went into dad mode trying to make sure she was okay. So it was kind of like an odd first match for their combat training.
Forget who says it. I want to say it's Kirishima, but he's like, oh, but the winners are all on the floor. Like, and they won. Like, this is a class. Numerous times, actually, Kirishima says throughout this like thing, he's like, this is a class, like this is what we're like learning. And it's funny because we'll see in this episode, everything else seems to go a lot more smoothly in terms of like the battles between the teams. Granted, some are very one-sided, but yeah.
And yes, this is also him slowly realizing that Deku preempted his strike, so that also happens. That was the hand he was going to hit, but also that hand almost hurt somebody. And I think it might mean more that it's Deku, but I'm not quite sure. I think it's just the fact that he might have took it that far that hurting somebody was his answer to this combat training.
To not being number one, even like
it's a really weird mix for a kid, especially learning right and wrong. It's like the first time you punch somebody, it's like it actually hurts you and them. So kind of learning that entire intensity as a person is really hard for anybody, let alone someone full of pride. And he's basically shaking this entire time until All Might comes up and is just like, hey, it's okay. You learn from these things. I mean, you're going to look back on this. It's part of experiencing life, and kind of gives him like that teacher feel. I
love that line because I mean, numerous moments in the series, and a lot of anime have this where they're like some lines just really kind of resonate with you. And like this is one of those things where it's like, no matter where you are in life, you got there based upon your whole past experiences, right? It's like by learning from stepping stones from like basically birth till now, it's all those little things that kind of inform your journey and create the person that we see today. And this is learning. He's like, okay, maybe he had to go this dark to realize this is not where he wants to be. He wants to be a hero. Like we will see that numerous times with Bakugo. He wants to be a hero, regardless of how many times he'll yell die and be an absolute dick. But he does, at the end of the day, he wants to not just be a hero. He wants to be the best hero. He wants to be number one.
It's like people liking death metal. People like their things. Maybe he doesn't want to yell yowzers and wowsy and let me do this awesome kick and punch. He's going to yell die and explode and all that stuff.
Gee golly.
Yeah, gee golly. Let's do that. Yeah. So we'll go from there. But
we get a great title.
Yes. This episode, I didn't realize how good it was until this is like my third time watching it, but like really after this last season that aired, watching this again. Because he's my favorite character too, but I really liked this.
It's 100% because he's your favorite character. That's not even a joke. So we're talking about MVP stuff, I think, during this, right?
Mm-hmm. And so they go on that Ida won MVP on this, which is the best. Another faceplate that would be amazing.
Great drawing of Ida. It's just like beaming.
Yes. Because that's all he ever wants is like that recognition for that. And so everyone's like, neither of the heroes got it. And then they go to explain, and All Might's like, why do you think that is? And then Momo basically rips them apart in a hero analysis about how they blew up the building. Bakugo was reckless. Uruka laughed and then just threw a bunch of rubble at a bomb.
Yep.
Like if it wasn't a training exercise, they would have just blown everything up. And so All Might also realized that Momo said it exactly how he wanted to, and this was the line from that. He's like, oh, well, she said more than I expected. He was expecting the kids to be like, oh, they blew up the building and move on. So.
Yeah. No, but she gave him a deep analysis, one that sticks with Bakugo. And at the end of this episode, we see him saying, and I agreed with her. Like this is the worst of it all. It's like I found myself agreeing with someone who said how bad I was at doing something, which is like, and when he says it later, we'll get to that later, but you see it breaking him inside to admit the fact that he agreed with someone who was saying how not good he was.
Yeah. And then they have the awesome introduction for her crazy hard name, so just call her Momo.
Yeah, I always just call her Momo or Creati. But I love her hair. I don't know what it is. I've always liked her hair. It has this great swoosh. Reminds me of Samurai Showdown. I don't know why I'm bringing that up, but it's cool.
Yes. So we get to introduce like the other kids as like little battles and their team ups and everything, and you get to actually recognize some of the characters. Like this one is, I think it's Toru, right? Like, because that's her name.
I never remember her name.
It's Curve is what I wrote down, but I realized it's Toru, like Fruits Basket, so I'm gonna remember it from now on.
Okay.
Yeah, and so she takes her gloves and her boots off, and she says, "I'm gonna get serious." And then her partner's like, "Wait, does that mean there's nothing there now?" And so, okay. And
we learned that she's naked except for gloves and boots 100% of the time.
Yeah. Oh, then we go into someone super cool. Speaking of shonen hair, so it's like going on with the dupli arms, and I always forget their quirks. I thought it was like a multiple arm thing, and I forgot that his ears and his mouth and stuff can go to the ends of it, and it was.
He could replicate any body part on the end of the arms that he can replicate. Like he has a great replication ability that over the course of the series we'll see him use in multiple ways. We get to see him, weirdly enough, like he uses it to put a mouth at the end of one of his tentacles. His hero name eventually will become Tentacle, which I just call him Tentacle because I can never remember Mezzo Shoji, which I should be able to remember that because it's easy. But he puts a mouth on the end of one just to talk to Shoto Todoroki, who's with him. And I'm like, dude, you're right next to him. Just use your regular mouth. But no, instead he puts it at the end of this weird, long, crazy arm. It's bizarre.
Yeah. It's an awesome design, though.
And Shoji is cool. All right. Let's be honest.
Yes.
What he does during a moment beginning of season 2, I think is really cool.
And this is showing Shoto's. This is a good introduction for him and how. This is a really bad pun, so don't make fun of me. But how cool he actually is overall, and his powers and how it works. And he even tells him he's like they actually think they're going to be defensive during this. It's just not going to work.
Yeah. He's very overpowered for this. However, it does seem like he has it all figured out. Bakugo's watching this and he feels like he has it all figured out. But we will learn Shoto is just as insecure as every other kid here for numerous reasons. But for right now, as just ice powers alone, damn. Because this. And again, Steph and I were talking about this beforehand, but they never explain the red glowing eye, and it drives me goddamn nuts because they don't explain it in the manga either, why his eye is glowing red or why he's like, I mean, I know why he's frozen from head to toe, but they also don't kind of go into it at all, really, and it kind of drives me a little bit nuts. But that's my own little personal thing. There.
And then the look for when Bakugo realizes there might be somebody that is more powerful than him and that he is to get up to that grade. So he's slowly realizing that he might have been the coolest kid in school in his little wherever suburb that they're from, beating up on poor quirkless Deku. But it's just like here he's in with a bunch of class people, and these people didn't even have to take the test. They got in with recommendations. So
I also love this drawing of Bakugo. It's like such a clean, really nice just drawing of him. You get the emotion on his face. It's perfect. We have the shadow is stopping at his nose too. It's very nice. Yeah, I think that hampers home. Even Shoto thinks of himself as pretty highly during this too. But he's not as outlandish as Bakugo is. with
he
it.
internalizes it a little more.
Yeah.
And I think when I think of a character that should have been maybe the Deku's childhood friend, I always thought that Shoto was going to be in that role.
Yep.
But I kind of like that they're so different with Deku and Bakugo. So it's nice to see another character that kind of has the same pride but shows it in a different manner. So Bakugo
Yes.
kind of get that he's kind of being an asshole even more.
And I think Eva sums it up perfectly here with the way how Bakugo, you know, when he realizes it, big fish in a big pond. And like, that is 100% correct. It is, you know, it's that moment where he's like, I have a lot of big powers, but hey, so does everybody else in this school that is the cream of the crop. And that's kind of why he wanted to go there, right? Because it's the best school. So he shouldn't have been too surprised by it. Yeah. We do see him use the half hot just a little bit there to kind of, you know, free everybody from the ice. But for the most part, we're just going to see the half cold side of Shoto Todoroki for a little bit.
I'm going to go in. This one was just this image is for Christy. Sorry, Dan.
And for me, I love Kirishima.
Yeah.
One of my favorites.
Rock fingers, because his powers just turn out so much cooler later on, too. And I just
I think he says somewhere here, he's like, my powers aren't flashy. They don't look cool. And I was just like, don't worry, you'll get there. Because I still have on my phone a GIF of a much later scene of this series of him being amazing. And I will not delete that because I love it. I love Kirishima. He's amazing.
And this was awesome just because, you know, tape guy's in it. And actually, he fell just perfectly where his elbow was lined up. So
that's true, actually. I actually thought he was shooting it out there, but dark shadow.
And this walk-up scene during this episode, I had to replay it a few times. I was like, how can I capture the intensity of this? Because he's so cool. Such a cool, like, power and look, and he's amazing.
And we don't get a good sense of his power at all yet, because his power, again, like everybody else's, has pluses and minuses. But we'll learn everybody a little bit more in depth a little bit further on. But I love this because we get a little kind of splash into the scene, you know, Froppy kind of like slowly crawling in. Sorry, Sue.
Yeah, it's okay.
I like Mineta. I'm going to say that, but again, I'm going to remind everybody watching, I am not the one taking these screenshots of Mineta. It is somebody else who also happens to be on the stream.
And I really like him. He's hilarious. Like, I never realized how many more there were until I started screenshotting stuff. And then you stop. You're like, oh my God. But
yeah.
Like, what are you doing? And then this look, the next screen, the look on Momo's face.
Oh, like, perfect. Yeah.
Yeah. And then he like slowly takes down his thumb, just like in this shot. He's like, "Oh, I'm sorry. No." Kick his ass. It's funny.
Zero. I love this. I love seeing her use her powers, because also those earphone jacks are a part of her body, but she could jam them into walls. Like, that's concrete that she's just jamming that into. Yeah. Like, everybody's giving you some good crap for taking pictures of Mineta.
Yeah, it's okay. And then how hard does she have to like push that into the wall though too? Like, if you see, like, it's crazy.
She doesn't act like it's a big deal for her. But it's great. I love for her, like, perfect like stealth hero. Like, she has a great power to kind of sneak around and kind of get the one up on the villains. So she tells wow, I always forget. You said Kaminari. Thank you. You're saying Calamari is going to remind me that it's Kaminari. Yeah. Christian saying Mineta is so relatable.
And then I think, we didn't get a picture with his electric powers when he uses it, because they make a good team too.
Yeah, they do. Yeah. So Kaminari's electric, her earphones, enable her to hear, you know, really well. And later on, we'll see her use it in more ways, offensive capabilities. These two are ridiculous.
Yeah, just how scared he is. Like, the guy was flexing for a while, and I was like, oh my gosh.
I know. I love it.
They're the villains too.
Oh yeah, that's great that they were the villains. I didn't even pick up on that until just now.
Yeah. And then Oyama and his entrance.
Yep. Oh, but his entrance is so good because of his teammate and what happens. Mina here diving in with her acid, getting really excited to get into action. But because she got really excited, she's throwing acid all over the place and
ruins his little cape.
And he is super salty about it because the boy loves that sparkle cape so much. This is Dan's boy. Love it.
He's always going to be calamari now. See? Now.
Yep.
Oh, and she tries to apologize. I feel bad because she's so excited all the time. She is a super cool too. I really like the way that they went all out on her.
She's great. I love Mina. What are we talking about here, Aizawa? Is this the flashback through?
Yeah, this is when they were talking about how they can't take other classes, like proper classes, seriously anymore because they're all worried about what Aizawa was going to throw at them next. And then the one, he's like, we're here for you to have proper classes as well. He's trying to pump them back up, but they're all like scared.
It's good. I love whenever they do any kind of montage in these shows, and this is the end of the montage here. But we got a good intro, I think, to all the kids.
Yeah, it was really nice to see them all use their kind of powers and talk to each other.
And meanwhile, through the whole thing, poor Kugo is still just distraught.
I think he's absorbing everything now. Like, he is like so calm. He actually watched every single battle that was going on. He watched everybody else do better, take it seriously, and he's just realizing how bad what he just did was. Yeah. I think you have another one though. Yes.
That's just a very good line, I think. And there's nothing more fragile than a heart that's swelled to bursting. Because that's absolutely correct.
Mm-hmm.
So
this is when he runs off saying that he's going to go talk to Midoriya and give him his results. And they're like, why is he running off so fast? And he barely made it in time to turn back into...
He's always in a hurry to get somewhere, I think is what one of them says. And yeah, it's great because it kind of goes ahead to show, like being a teacher and having to be on for however long that was, I forget how many teams there were, 15 minutes. I'm going to imagine like most classes, probably an hour and a half or something like that. Yeah. So that's a good chunk of time. And what we'll see in the next episode is, take some time to get to work even. So he's, he's already stretching it pretty thin. So he's usually desperate to get to the teacher's lounge in a way, although he's in the nurse's office.
A lot.
Yeah. And poor recovery girl. Well, not poor recovery girl. She hammers him.
She lets him have it because he's sitting there like, crying about Midoriya being hurt, and she's basically telling him that he knows that these are favorite. He knows what's going on with them, but he needs to be a teacher. He needs to be the adult and help them. Yep. And I think it's a common theme throughout the series where you have kids and you have adults, and you're like they're trying to figure out life as mentors because they were the kids before, and just like that dynamic between All Might and Deku is really good throughout the entire series.
Yep. And we'll see in about a second is that not many people know about the whole One for All transfer, but Recovery Girl is that. Therefore, we get to see Recovery Girl see the effects of what that transfer has done to Midoriya, and like what how All Might should maybe be taking this whole mentorship a little bit differently, and she kind of gives them crap for it because she says right there, like, yes, Mr. Natural Born Hero, because she's giving him crap for, like, he's holding these things like Natural Born Hero and Symbol of Peace and these phrases too highly, and he's worried about how that might change if he's not acting that way the whole time. But that might have a different effect on Deku and the upbringing of the next possible Symbol of Peace.
Yeah, exactly. And she's trying to make him think about that. And he was going on about how society would just be in chaos if people knew about One for All and all this stuff. Because he's talking about how certain people know about it. The principal, which I like, the shadow is just like you don't know what he looks like. Yeah,
I guess we haven't met the principal yet in the series. So it's like, what in the world is that?
Yeah, super creepy.
Yeah.
He says another person, and I thought there was two other ones, but maybe only one of them knows about One for All. The other person I'm thinking of only knows about
we will learn that this is wrong. There's more people that know about One for All, but when All Might says this, and he told Midoriya this too, he'll say later on, it's like, oh, I forgot a couple people, and so there's clearly more than this image, but this is the core that we'll have to like discuss for now. Season 2 will meet another one, and then there's more, but it is funny.
Little face. Oh, and then you kind of go, Midoriya's out, like getting his IVs and all that stuff, because they can't heal him again because she yells at him even more. But she's like, I can't just keep healing him. His body's not gonna be able to maintain this. So she had to give him just first aid, which I couldn't even imagine getting first aid after being burned by that and getting your arm blown up at 14. Yep. So it's just crazy. But this is him going through all these images again, which are very important about how he can be a hero. This is your Hero Academia. This is one for all. And then you kind of see him slowly wake up.
Yeah. I think it's a great moment because I think also he realized at this time how late in the day it is, all that kind of stuff. Clearly when he's out, he experienced the whole lead up, all the powerful moments that brought him to this point. But he's still in school and he's got to rush off and move on. And hey, James, welcome. We start now at 7 p.m. Pacific, 10 p.m. Eastern. So we changed the time as of last week, and we're going to be trying to keep it, I think, this time frame going forward. So, yeah.
Oh, and then he's sad about missing class, which is such a little nerd thing to do.
I mean, he is at the most prestigious hero school, so I understand the stress of that kind of thing. Of like, you don't want to. He already finds himself to be at the very bottom. So if he misses an entire afternoon of classes, he's going to find himself even below that. He's below the bottom. He's, he needs some catching up. This was great.
Yes. Because Midoriya is so used to being laughed at, or no one cares that he's in class. Yep. He's never really had like friends or anything like that interaction. Like I think Urika catching him when he fell was like the first actual real interaction with another student. Like if you think about it, the poor kid has just been beaten on for being quirkless forever. Yeah. And then to enter the classroom and everybody's excited to see him because he's okay and they want to talk to him about how awesome he was and how their fights went and just kind of relatable.
Yep. Yeah. And I don't know if you caught it in a screenshot here, but they even talk about how like his performance propelled them to be better. They propelled them to, do the whole plus ultra go beyond thing and like, work their best. I like that you threw this in.
That was, a little bias there too, but it's all right. And then I felt bad because Ayama was trying to introduce himself this entire time, and they have like background for him talking about how shiny and awesome he is, and no one cared.
I love that. I loved it. And I love, the articulator and Christy are both saying like this part made me happy for Midoriya, seeing people be friendly to him for the first time, and how Christy said, it was nice being friendly to him, and like I felt the exact same way. It was like it's something he's never experienced, and it was like he's getting this huge warm welcome, but also he's not fixated on them. He's more fixated on, the person who seems to be missing from the room. Yeah. I love his little jump up there.
Yeah, his little arm just goes. He's like, I'm Mineta. Like, everyone needs to know that.
Yep.
And this comes a little bit before where Ida's being Ida, where he really cares about those desks being in pristine condition, and they even ask him like, "What is with your hands? Like, why are you always directing traffic?" It's just like, it was a comical little thing for poor Ida again.
I loved it, and I loved this. I loved Kaminari basically asking out Ochako, and she completely blows him off when she looks to the right and sees that Deku's back. It's fantastic.
It was very adorable.
Right there.
Yeah. And then she just takes off and worried. And then he's not even like acknowledging that at all either, which is very cute. He's more again worried that there's an empty desk in the room and the person who thinks that he was lying to him. And this is him in his head. He's like, this kid still thinks that I was doing this against him this entire time. And I can't have that because he still looks up to him. He still wants him to be.
This kid blew him up with basically grenades in a sense, and he feels he owes him an apology, and I think that speaks to Deku's just like personality. I think in a big way. So he catches up.
Yeah. And this scene makes this episode. Like everything else is great, but this interaction between these two characters is well written, well done, and like it shows the differences and the similarities of both of these kids so much. It's crazy.
Yeah.
And he's trying to explain to him, he's like, hey, I didn't have a quirk. Somebody gave me this quirk. He's trying to make him feel better, but at the same time, I think it's almost making himself feel better because he's also making another person aware of something that is going on in his mind. He even tells him, he's like, I never even told my mother this, but I'm going to tell Bakugo. Like, it doesn't make too much sense. Almost like he knows that Bakugo is going to listen and understand, which is kind of odd to me that their relationship is still on that level.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think it is for Midoriya. I don't know if Bakugo is thinking the exact same thing. Yeah. So we have a little bit of that exchange.
Yeah. And in my mind, Bakugo's like, are you making up excuses? Are you trying to lie to me still and make up something now that you don't know what's going on? And so he does this. And then Midoriya stands up to him and just like basically challenges him for the first time in like a decade that they've known each other. And that's this face. I don't know if I got it for Bakugo. The face that he makes after this, where he's like stunned into silence.
I do love that this is when Deku knows that he said too much. He wasn't supposed to say half of the stuff. He just wanted to say he didn't trick him, but instead he let out pretty much the entire secret of One for All without essentially saying One for All. Yeah, but he basically kind of gave it away.
And Bakugo is like, realistically, he's like, are you still trying to lie to me? Why do you even care about this part? Because in his mind, he's already past that point. He understands Deku has a quirk. He understands what's going on. He's more angry with himself for thinking that he was already surpassing all these people when clearly he's not. And this whole thing is just like, he just thought, he thought that he couldn't beat Shoto. He realized, he calls her the ponytail girl, that Momo is smarter than him and understands things. And he ends up agreeing with her that he messed up, that there's other people that are better than him. And to top it off, Deku did better than him during that combat mission. The one person that he thought was never going to even amount to anything else in his little view of the world. He was able to like do that. And the tears, the pure like, this is his moment. And like, I like that Deku got to have his moment too. That's what he always wanted to say to Kacchan. This is what Kacchan always wanted to say, either to himself or just to the world. And it was like, at the same time, two of them, and they both realize that they both want to be number one, that they both want to be heroes. And I think Urika's quote is my favorite thing.
Oh yeah. Well, she says that multiple times through. We've actually heard her say it before this scene. We've heard her say it probably twice, I think. And it's great by the time we get to see her say it this time. We're like, it's truly is, a fated battle between men. I think is what she says. But we have this whole, there he is. Oh, that's right. There he is not Deku saying it. It is All Might. It is great because he goes, the way how he says it too. I think I even broke down like how he phonetically kind of like broke it into parts. There he is, Bakugo Shonen. Like he just like goes behind him and just like, love that. And that should be on a t-shirt. Yeah, it's fantastic with grab.
And the best part about all of this too is that Bakugo and Deku almost mentored each other. They didn't have to worry about this. And this part where All Might grabs him, he's just like, let go of me. I can't walk anymore. He's crying, so he's embarrassed. And like he just like, I need to move on. And All Might realizes that he didn't really need to be there to help him. They obviously helped each other. He's like, I'm going to be a better hero even without you telling me that I'm going to be a better hero. And so he figured it out himself. And then All Might also realizes internally that it's hard being a teacher. He's like, oh, I messed up again.
Yep.
And then this.
I love that they were all watching from above. And it's one of those moments too, like just like during the actual battle, we get all the other classmates looking on, where they don't get to hear the exchange, but they're watching, emotions kind of play out just, visually. And so they're getting to see that, clearly, I believe the girls say it here, like it looked like Midoriya was just giving excuses one-sidedly. But he wasn't. He was explaining a truth that no one else knows. And he was like really opening his heart. But from afar, it kind of just looks like he's giving excuses. And then Bakugo kind of is very much Bakugo in a way back, where he's kind of explosively annoyed. But they don't see that he's upset with his own actions and himself. And he was agreeing with Momo or saying that Shoto was stronger or things like that. So they don't get the full breadth of it. But I think after they say this, Ochako even says again, like it's a fated battle between men.
Yes. And this line too.
Yep. It's perfect. Sums it up for him. Because it really has been. Oh yeah. And then we have again, I think this is our second from the series so far. After credit scenes, we get a good outside shot of a bar that we're going to see a couple times, especially coming up. And we get a quick glimpse of some of the characters that we'll be meeting fairly soon. Just want to kind of go through these and end it on this character who has such a great look. Oh, man. At the end of next episode, him coming through that portal, such a good look.
It is.
But, all right, Steph, I think I already know the answer, but favorite moment?
It is going to be Bakugo's response and that exchange between the two of them, because literally that is, to me, the backbone of the entire series is their growth as both characters.
Yeah.
No matter which way they go as heroes, the two of them set the scene and the stage for the whole series. Whether you go on Team Bakugo or you go on Team Deku, you kind of roll that way. And that exchange, I realize, starts all of that off because they both get out their past worries with each other, and then they move on from there to start their actual real adventures.
Yeah, it's great. I think that's for me, same scene. It's the scene where we get to kind of get like a little bit in depth. Also, I've been in the situation where I want to go just say one simple thing, but because of your true feelings for maybe the person you're talking about or talking to, you tend to divulge a little bit more than you planned. But it's usually for the best that you got it out there. Like you have to like let that off your chest if it's on your chest. It's the only way to kind of relieve that. Plus, chances are that person needed to hear it. And, Bakugo quickly shrugs it off here, but maybe down the line we'll realize, he actually internalized that a little bit stronger and, we'll get to see it again. But we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. Exactly. But we get a little bit of fun and levity to kind of start off the next episode. Yes. So let's jump right into that. I did see that you had a screenshot of the full squad. So I left that in there. Want to know
who all them all are, so I was
that's
like,
true. Might as well get the whole group together. This is a great shot. I love it. All the kids. And all my that's right, I'm not on the right screen. It's like it's not moving. There we go. Oh. Yep. Forgot how this starts, but yeah.
It's where the press is outside and they're interviewing all the kids and they're trying to talk to them about All Might because All Might's obviously a huge star, and they go through all the kids, and I think Urika just talks about how muscular he is, and then they ask Ida, and Ida goes on to the most long explanation. I think I wrote it down too. I have to read it because it's hilarious.
Yeah, he definitely gives the explanation that you'd like read in like, I don't know, the back of like a book jacket.
He made me recognize and knew that I attend an educational institution that is the best of the best. And then he continued on for a while. They were like making like sleepy faces. And then they go to this guy and they're like, wow, you're scruffy. What's your deal? Who's just as big of a hero as All Might. He just doesn't go in front of the press.
Yep.
And so I really liked that too. But
I love the numerous times they hammer home how much he hates the press. And he even, I think, acknowledges it immediately after this scene. He's like, how does All Might get anything done with these people, like constantly hounding them? Like, I don't understand, because all this press junket outside of UA is happening just because All Might is a teacher. They want sound clips because All Might's a teacher. They want to know what people think of All Might being a teacher. And it's all about All Might. So, it's funny. And yeah, we get a little cutaway to learn that, they're not just alone there.
No. And also that's when all the metal gates fall down and you realize that you have to have a school bracelet to be able to get in to the door. UA has security and everything for outsiders. So the press have to actually stay outside of the gates. And then it kind of pans to the back of this and
they call this the UA barrier is what the reporters reference it as.
Yeah, they weren't very happy about it.
Yeah, just do your best, Lita.
Yeah.
Great.
So this is when Aizawa comes in. He's like, okay, so today we're going to do something different. And they're all like, oh my God, it's another test that we have to worry about. And then he goes into how they're just going to pick, I think the next image is him saying, oh, we're just going to decide on a class representative. And they're all like, oh, that's really normal and boring.
Yeah.
And
all
the kids, all of them want to be class rep. Like, even Bakugo is like cheering. And then Ida yells.
Oh, yeah. Bakugo doing it was like really funny because I was like, no one wants you as class president. And he's like, I'll do it.
Yeah. And then Ida says we have to have an election. And they're like, well, your hand is raised the highest in the entire class. And then he zips himself up in the sleeping bag. He's like, I don't care as long as you decide before homeroom's over. And then just falls over and goes to sleep and lets them to their own devices, which I think is very telling because he's probably just watching them from underneath there.
He also does say before this all kicks off, Aizawa has a great line because he, what we learn in the previous episodes is that because he's the homeroom teacher, he gets all of the results from the other classes. So at the very beginning of the class, he's chastising Midoriya for blowing up his entire arm again. But instead of basically saying like, you did the wrong thing, he says he's like, you're on your way. You're kind of learning it. Just feel a sense of urgency about learning to get a control of your power. And I kind of love the fact that even Aizawa at that moment was emboldening Midoriya's sense of becoming a hero, and like because he knows the kid's smart enough, he knows he can learn this. He just has to get faster at it. But yeah, then we get right back into this fun stuff.
Well, and he also talked to Bakugo and was like, you need to stop acting like a child. And that was all he said. He's like, you're really amazing. You're very good at your powers, but stop acting like a child. And then all he says is, I know. And he sits back down. So it was that.
I love that Bakugo has learned a little bit about himself in this 3-episode stretch.
Yeah. And it took that long.
Yeah.
It took a Dragon Ball Z episode arc to do it.
It's not nearly that bad. Come on now.
So then they realized that Deku got 3 votes. And so Baku was pissed, obviously. And then I think Deku's even surprised who voted for him. And he kind of doesn't understand why. And then Ida kind of talks to him about some good qualities about him. And I like this too, this lunch, because Ida and Urika basically are the friends. They're going to talk to him and give him encouragement and kind of show him, hey, we both voted for you, and this is how it works, and this is why.
Yeah.
So it was nice.
I love the Urika talks about thinking.
She does. And then
it's great to be. Go ahead.
No, it was just funny because this is his answer to why he didn't vote for himself. And so he said wanting to do something and being suitable to do it is 2 different things. I think that's very adult. Yeah.
I was also just very Ida because clearly he is. If I could pick, even on face value without learning more about the characters, I would want the structural rigid kid to be the class rep because he's actually going to get the stuff done, right? Mm-hmm. Like, if you pick the most popular person, they're not going to get, the things done as they need to. Like, they're going to be more worried about, making sure they're staying the most popular person. But if you keep the flag waving, arm waving, this is how UA should be, we should be the best kind of thing person up there. Yeah. He'd be the prime choice.
And then
Rice on her cheek.
Yeah, with rice. And then, but he kept saying like merely and like bigger words, and they're like, oh, and this is part of her just saying whatever comes out of his mouth, which Deku was like, oh my god, but she's like, are you a rich boy? And then Ida goes into his family history and kind of like what makes him himself and his lineage, but they're all like staring with intensity because they really want to know, and they're very in awe of it because they both came from very average upbringings, I would say.
Yeah. I love this. Just the coolness of the Ida family. What good looking costumes they have. They all look like knights.
Yes.
Like futuristic, like engine knights. It's cool.
Mm-hmm.
The Ingenium line.
Yeah. And the things about his brother, who's Ingenium right now, that he likes about him is that he's likable and that he's a leader, which are Ida's top qualities in everybody, I believe. It's like he that out. And then Deku realizes that Ingenium is to Ida is what All Might is to him. So it's like his superhero, his mentor.
I love that. I love that his brother is his hero, his go-to, like the pinnacle that he wants to reach. It's kind of actually like, I would actually more compare it to if you were to take All Might and Bakugo and kind of mix them into one person, that would be an Ingenium, because it is the person next to him too.
Yeah. Oh, it's my favorite part. Sorry. This is when the press is outside and they started like looking at this stuff, and they're trying to figure out what to do. And he's like, well, technically they trespassed, so they're villains. You think we can beat them up? And Aizawa's like talking back to President Mike, like, no, we can't. You're going to get false truths told about you all day long.
Yep.
This part made me laugh.
This happens though earlier, right? At the gate. I think it just kind of somehow found its way into a weird spot.
This is when the alarm starts going off.
Oh, okay. So this is after the level 3 security, which meant trespasser alarm.
Yeah, I think I missed a couple images where all the kids are storming around, running, and at this point, Ida's noticed outside, and that's where they go to the Aizawa and President Mike outside with the press.
Oh, okay. Yeah, because Ida is the only one out of all the kids in UA that looks outside the window to see what's actually happening, and he realizes that it's just the press that got in. That's all.
Yeah. A level 3 usually means like a villain is on campus and everything else like that. And so he's trying to figure out how to stop because people are getting crushed. There's like even Kirishima, who's like a rock guy. You think that he would be able to stop himself dead in his tracks. He's scared. You have Kaminari, who's like worried. He's like, I have to do something. And so he sees Urka in the crowd. He's like, hey,
getting crushed. She's probably the one who's getting crushed the most. Poor girl.
Yeah, and she's like, make me float real quick. And then the handoff was him tagging him. And this is Deku watching him just like float up and take off and like take charge.
He shoots. So as soon as he starts floating, he lets his rockets kind of go off, or his engine boost.
Yeah.
And because if you were to be floating, right, and you have your engines come out of just one part of your body, what's going to happen? It's going to propel your body that way and probably spin you around. So we see Ida go up to the sky and then rocket like a cartwheel, like tumble down the hallway onto like above everybody. So everybody was like looking up and watching this guy go twirling above them, and then that's what we have Deku looking up here and seeing. So then we see him hit the front wall and look like the exit sign running guy and tell everybody what's actually happening.
And then you get this part was like later on because the police show up and they're like, okay, they all calm down. Ida says, he's like, how do I say this in the most emboldened, quick, like even the way he like thinks about things are in orderly fashion. And so he tells him, he's like, it's just the media, don't worry. And everyone takes a big breath. And then when the police show up, President Mike just screams, goodbye, bad mass media, because he gets so mad at them. And Aizawa, I think, is sleeping by this point.
One thing we do also learn here is we see the gate, and we see what happened to the gate, and it is very clearly the result of the powers of the person that we haven't quite met yet, but he's standing across the street watching. But that's who let the press in. But that's not something, I wanted to just bring that up now because I feel like I'm going to forget this whole moment when we actually see him later. But so they didn't just get in on their own.
And then Deku acknowledges Ida's greatness and it tells him, hey, I want to nominate him to be the class rep because Deku's clearly not in want of that. He was like freaking out. And Momo is the vice rep. And she's like, what am I even doing here? And
well, she was like, why not me? She still wanted to be the class rep. And she was just like, so because he nominates Tenya, who wasn't even second or third, or who knows. But like, she was a little upset that he kind of looked past her. But also, when the crisis happened, who was the one to step to the front on his own volition? No one told him to go up and, calm everybody down. He saved the day. Yeah. So, emergency exit, Ida. Yeah. Great. Oh, here we go. There's the shot of the gate all broken down. Someone instigated this. And there's the back of the principal. So you get a little shot of what the principal looks like.
And another one of the teachers. Oh. I can't remember. Oh, this is him on his way to work that day. Because like you were saying before, that he has to get to work. And so there's all these random villains and people needing saving and everything like that. And you even see a lot of the little like lower level heroes just getting beat up. They're not doing as well as like some of the mainstream people. Yeah. And so he comes flying out of the air, yelling Missouri Smash, saves a family. Then I think he stops like a burglary. And then they're like, oh, the next town over is being held hostage. And he has to like run off. And so,
This Missouri Smash was great though, because he comes down from the sky and he just, as you said, we saw all these other heroes that we met in the very first episode. Mount Lady is there. I think Kaminari Woods is there. And they're having this trouble with this giant hulking muscle guy. And he just chops him back of the head. Guy's down, saves the day, jumps off. And we actually also see him acknowledge the fact that his jump off isn't as fast as it was previously. So he's realizing he's getting slower after he transferred the power. Like, his power is slowly fading as it, goes off to Midoriya.
Exactly. Oh, and this is him getting chastised because he told Bakugo about the One for All, basically. And he's just like, he felt the urge to tell this one person at least. He's like, I didn't even tell my mom, but I really needed to tell Bakugo about this. Yeah. He
felt, I mean, and you kind of get it too. It's like, it would have caused more strife, I think, if he hadn't told him. If and it kind of kept being this thing about Bakugo feeling like he tricked him. It could have ended up being worse. So he kind of trusts him in that. So, and then we get into the start of something new.
Yes. So I caught this one because the last one was for combat, and so now we go into rescue. So heroes are supposed to save people, and so it's always like, this is the time that we're going to go through this new skill set basically for disaster shipwrecks, and kind of introduces the class to something different.
I just noticing that Dan pulled out the quote one of the press reporters said, like, why are you so scruffy? I love that. The press was like, why are you so scruffy? It's great.
I like this one because everyone's like, oh yeah, we're going to save people. I'm great in water. And he's just like, my arms are ready to rumble. And I was like, I don't understand how that's going to rescue somebody, but great.
I mean, he's a wall, right? That's kind of, he thinks of himself as just being a wall. So like turning his arms into a wall should help somebody from something.
Yeah.
Hopefully. He'll find a way.
Yeah, exactly. And then Deku's acknowledging it's another step closer to him being the greatest hero, and then they get to board the bus, which is one of my favorite things.
Oh, the bus is such a good scene. Oh, also got to give props to the continuity of this show where he damages his suit, so he has to they give him the option of wearing their suits or not, because Aizawa even says like some of your suits might actually hinder you in a rescue situation. You don't know. But Bakugo destroyed, as well as, actually it was mostly Bakugo destroyed Deku's suit. A lot of explosions. So he is wearing his UA training outfit with all of his gear on top of it.
Yeah, and I realized that did Bakugo destroy one of his gauntlets, or they just probably just didn't have him put them on?
I don't think he just has it on. So I think he
Yeah.
has both coming up.
Perfect.
Oh, I forgot that he says this. I think I was
Yeah.
busy taking a note.
Yeah, and then Ida directs them onto the bus. You tell them we get in single file lines, and they realize the bus is set up differently than normal school buses. So Ida's super bummed, and then they kind of have a little dialogue on the bus about powers and kind of school. And she's
And
like, "Your
they
book is like
tease
oh my
Bakugo. I love
yeah,
that they tease. Did you get shots of?
yeah.
Okay, good. It's great. This whole bus sequence. I love when the kids get to be kids, right? It's like you get to see them actually interacting. Like, yeah, their life will be on the line sometimes. Yeah, they're training to be great heroes, but at the end of the day, they're still just 14-year-old kids, you know?
Yeah.
So, and this is a little bit of that. And Sue is great with this.
Yeah. She's very observant. And then Kirishima coming in with the save.
Yep.
And then the next one is poor Oyama. He's like, "Oh, my stuff is both flashy and strong."
Yeah, which Mina quickly bashes him down. Like, I love that. Like, pro level in both flashiness and strength. The face is perfect. He's like, you shouldn't be bringing that up.
No, he's like, "Oh man!" Not only she ruined his cape, she's ruined his pride too.
Yep. Mina is great because, like, you know, Ochako, she might not have the filter on what she says, but she doesn't think that's bad. But, you know, so good.
And then I think, yeah,
they're talking about like popular heroes and how Bakugo being so mad that he wouldn't be popular, although he's definitely popular with so and so.
Yeah, because he has a flashy and strong quirk, but they're going to point out that it just might not be because his personality sucks. And then it goes to the next one, and then Kaminari has the best. Oh yeah, what the hell you want to fight?
When I was watching this, we were talking about why would Jiro choose to sit next to Bakugo, because the seat behind her is completely open. So why not?
I don't know. I think they're assigned seating actually, because I think Ida assigned them numbers. They had to go in order. That's what it was. And then the next line is like the greatest thing. Not that one, but him being teased. Yeah.
This is one of my favorite moments. It's because it's like the exact opposite of everything Deku's ever known in his life. You know, because Deku has teased all of his life, and now all of a sudden Deku's like kind of in with the kids, like, and Kacchan is being teased.
Yeah. And then this one,
I wrote this whole line down too. It was one of my favorite ones.
So it's amazing that everyone already knows his personality is crap steeped in sewage. I was like, wow.
Says it so matter-of-factly, and boy, he delivers like a killing blow with that.
And then Bakugo yells at him because of the vocabulary. And then I like it better that Momo is also, she's like, "Oh, I can't believe you guys are so crude saying that." And Ochako is just like, "I love it though. It's amazing."
Yeah. Oh, I love that too. Ochako like loves the crudeness.
Yeah.
So we get to the rescue facility. We meet that there's another hero there. I think Aizawa on the way here said there's going to be 3 heroes that are going to lead the training. It's Aizawa, it's 13, and it's supposed to be All Might.
So they have like the Deku fanboy eyes for 13. They didn't do a slide for her, so I missed it, or him.
I think they do later when she uses her powers, I think.
Yeah. And so she's explaining that her whole deal as a hero is to rescue. She's the rescue hero, basically. She's the one that they go to when natural disasters occur and everything that's going on. And that she created this huge training ground for people to train on earthquakes, everything else that they have for water heroes. And then I think... Oh... That's because All Might was going to be late, and he had to go rest because he had been out and about saving people for too long. And so I saw his reaction to this, and he's like, "That's the height of irrationality, is going out and saving a bunch of people before coming to actually class and doing his job."
But that's also being the number one hero. You know, you're expected to save everybody. 13 has one of the craziest quirks.
Yeah, I'll let you explain it because it's really, really awesome. And
Oh, I mean, it's just basically turning stuff to dust, like creating a black hole and turning whatever she sucks in to dust.
mm-hmm. I always wondered
She's
if her whole
nuts.
body was just a black hole. That's like it's like the
I think
coolest.
it's kind of supposed to be, right? Yeah. We'll
Mm-hmm.
learn more about 13 as this um, rescue section continues on, which I will say they will refer to this section as being the USJ incident because this is USJ, which stands for Unforeseen Simulation Joint, which is such a ridiculous name. But
Mm-hmm.
so we are here at the USJ facility, which has the multiple terrains and whatnot.
Yeah, we go through, and then this is the moment where the black hole and Aizawa realizes that something's wrong as they're about ready
Yep.
to start the thing, and
And a
then
familiar song starts bumping in the background.
mm-hmm. And then Deku realizes that there's a bunch of crazy things coming out,
Yep.
and then Kirishima says, "Oh, this must be part of the mission," and like he's like super excited about it. I think that's the next one I took a picture of was him basically. Is this like the entrance exam where the lessons already started? Like he thinks that that's what they're supposed to be doing, and
Yep.
Aizawa yells at them to not to move because they're actually villains. And he puts his goggles on, and that's when everyone realizes that something is going
Something
down.
seriously wrong. Those are villains. There's some weird looking villains, like that puffy armed person. Like I was looking at these, I'm like, what is going on? Because some of them they won't go into really. I don't think we see the puffy armed person again.
There's a crazy.
Yeah, what a crazy place to leave off. The start of the rescue section of this season, and it's all of a sudden they're going to be confronted with actual villains. We're going to have a real big threat for them to, their first big threat, essentially.
Yeah, the next 3 episodes are going to be awesome.
Yes, they are. But before we get to, I guess, the sign off, favorite moment from this episode?
This episode was like a half and half kind of thing too, because they have
It
the
was.
Ida big thing, and then you have the introduction of the rescue stuff.
You can pick one for me, Raph, if you want.
Yeah, I like that Ida got the class rep thing. The whole exit sign, as funny as it is, it's very him, and it's very telling of his character. So that's always a good moment. But I do really like that line from about Bakugo being steeped in his own sewage or whatever it was. It was like I was like, wow, yep. And it's good for him to hear.
I think so too. I think it's good for him to kind of be taken down a peg, because he kind of does seem for like a little while on the outskirts of the group. But the great thing about the group of kids that we have at UA is that while, Bakugo might be on the outside, he's never not wanted to be in with everybody. Like, they will still continually talk about him and like still continually will prop him up when he does well, like that kind of stuff. Like they're never exclusionary. They are very welcoming. It's fantastic. This is where I dropped off the first time I watched it. I know why. Oh, damn, James, this is what a rough spot to like leave off. Right as the villains are coming in, because we're about to see some crazy stuff.
Yeah, but what was your favorite part? Because this is like,
it's a tough thing because for one, like I love the Aizawa line to Deku when Deku's fully expecting to be chastised, and instead Aizawa's like, "You're doing fine. Just prioritize speeding up your progress," kind of thing. And Deku's already like, that's what I'm trying to do. And he felt more emboldened by that. He's like, yeah, you're right. I need to. But also that moment on the bus, the kids getting to be the kids. I always love when we get to see, I don't know, the any of the main characters of a show like this just getting to interact with one another, right? It's like you're just getting to see their personalities play off each other. And this is really the first big moment where they're all together. They have a little bit of time with each other. So, they get to tease Bakugo. They get to build up Midoriya a little bit. There's little nitpicks at each other here or there, but it's all done in a positive way. So probably, I think overall it might have to be the bus. But yeah, it's cool. But I'm very excited for what's to come.
Yeah, it's nice to have actual villains, not just people that are kind of like running their arc and thing. And this villain is on the villain side is my favorite. So I'm very excited to see him in action. So
yeah, we're gonna get to learn of. Yeah, I don't want to talk. I don't want to spoil it because some people might be watching this for the first time. So
yeah.
Enjoy what is about to happen while we cover the next 3 episodes, 10, 11, and 12 for next Saturday. Yeah, it should be exciting. I don't know where episode 12 leaves off at. I really hope that we finish with the rescue stuff, but I don't think we will. I think that's going to be like right in the middle of it. So, it might be another like weird big cliffhanger moment, but we'll get there.
Yeah.
But so thank you everybody for tuning in this week. We appreciate you guys in the comments for hopping in, checking out these episodes with us. Thanks for chatting. I want to give a shout out again to Fire Scorpio Photo for doing our intro. I haven't given him a shout out the past couple of weeks, but I should be doing it every episode because he did a great intro for us.
It is. It's amazing.
And thank you again, Steph, for joining me. And so we'll catch you guys next week.
Yeah, thanks for joining us. You guys have fun.
Have a good weekend, everybody.
Yeah.
Bye.